You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
Welcome back to Mike's Madness, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the instant classic from last night between the Ravens and Browns from Week 14. As I said in the other video I made today, if you missed the game last night, I feel sorry for you because, again, you missed an instant classic, and man, oh man, was it ever an instant classic. There's really not much more to say other than it was a great game, and I have an announcement at the end of the video to make, so stay tuned, watch to the end of the video because I have a announcement to make as well. But without further ado, let's get started. The key takeaways for the game for me: Hollywood Brown needs to go. He is becoming more and more of a problem every game, and I think he may have a good career with another team, but he's just not fitting in with the Ravens. Marcus Peters is a problem. He did have a decent game last night, but that is last night's performance for him was an outlier compared to some of the other performances he's had in recent weeks. As I do understand that the Ravens defense as a whole has gone through some injuries and some other difficulties as well, but Marcus Peters is a problem, even though he did have a somewhat decent game last night. Don't get me wrong, he still had some issues last night that he needs to get together. Cleveland has nothing to hang their head about. They are 9-4 right now. Even after that loss, they are still in the playoff picture. They're more than likely going to be in the they're more than likely to be in the playoffs this year. This is probably their best team in 20 years or so, 25 years. They just look. This is the first year that they've been successful under this new group. With Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry. Odell was with them for the first half of the season. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, all those new guys, Njoku, all those new guys that they've brought in to try to get a good team going and get a successful dynasty going. This is the first year where they've really put that all together and put a good product out on the field. So, you're not going to be perfect in the first good year that you have with a new group like this, and it took them a while to find their guy who they wanted to be wearing the headset, the main headset, the head coach. But they finally found a guy that looks like he somewhat knows what he's doing. He obviously knows what he's doing because he challenged that too many men on the field non-call last night, and that was something that I didn't even know you could challenge. So he's definitely a guy that seems to have his head in the right spot and not up his butt like some of the other coaches that the Browns have had in recent years. So look, this one loss, although it was a tough one to lose, somebody's got to lose it, and they just wound up on the wrong side of the scoreboard last night. But they've got nothing to hang their head about. They have got a really good group of guys, and I think the Browns are going to be a tough team to beat in the next 5 years or 5-10 years. This is going to be a team that's not going to be the same old Browns anymore. This is a team that you are not going to beat by a lot, and you're not going to beat easily. You've got to start respecting the Browns, which sounds really, really weird, and I don't think I ever would have heard myself say that. But the Ravens Browns and the Browns Steelers. If the Browns can start getting competitive with the Steelers, that too will be a good rivalry for years to come. But this rivalry is even better because it is featuring two young quarterbacks that are going to be on their team for quite some time, and the Browns-Ravens rivalry this is the first year where it's become like a true rivalry. Last year a little bit, but this year more so. This matchup is starting to become a real rivalry, and it's going to be fun to watch in years to come. I hope we get to see them play again in the playoffs because, man, oh man, that was a great game last night. Again, I'm sure you can find a replay on NFL Network or something like that. They probably have some kind of a replay or something going on there. I'm sure you can catch the highlights on YouTube or ESPN or something. But yeah, if you miss the game, you gotta get, whether you want to find the replay somewhere, find highlights, you gotta do something, because that was a game that you cannot. If you're a football fan and you claim you're a football fan, there is no way you can just be accepting of the fact of missing that game. You gotta find a way to watch the highlights or something, because that is a game that you just could not miss. Lamar Jackson, he finally got back to his MVP form from a year ago. He looked like the reigning MVP for once this year. The Cowboy game, he looked really good, but that was against the Cowboys, who are our joke this season. So that was kind of, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it wasn't like one where you say, oh man, he did that against a really good team. He's really starting to turn the corner this year. But this game last night was a game where, like I just said, everybody who wanted to see Lamar Jackson have a really good game against a real good team, and he's really just been doing it against some below average teams this year, and it doesn't really shock anybody because you're expected to do that. He finally did it against a really good team in the Browns, and I can't believe I'm saying that the Browns are a really good team. That's just crazy. But it looked like the offensive coordinator and the head coach finally stopped trying to get Lamar Jackson to be Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, and they let him play his game. They let Lamar do Lamar. They let him be himself instead of forcing him to throw the ball 30 times or whatever it was. Had they done that earlier in the season, some of those losses probably would have turned into wins. If they didn't make Lamar, the Steelers' defense in the first game really forced Lamar to throw the ball more than he wanted to. The Chiefs game, they tried to make Lamar Jackson throw the ball so much. I just don't get it. And I get that last night's matchup was a matchup where the defenses really didn't show up too much, but Lamar Jackson really played well against a good team. And when he had the poop cramps or whatever you want to call it, and McSorley came in, that really showed you that the Ravens cannot survive without Lamar Jackson. People just want to make it out to be like he's a running back or whatever, right? Well, if you want to bring in another quarterback, you think, oh man, okay, this quarterback can throw the ball. They're better off without Lamar Jackson. You are wrong. You are 100% wrong. Actually, you're not even 100% wrong. You're 120% wrong, because the Ravens need Lamar Jackson in order to be successful. There was an instance where I think Myles Garrett bit really hard on the read option one way, and then Lamar Jackson just absolutely took it like 30 yards or something. And then the next play that he bit the opposite way, and they handed it off to Gus Edwards, and then he ran for like 20 yards or so. So Lamar Jackson really gets the defenses to have to think, and when the defenses don't think and they try to jump one way or the other, the Ravens just do the opposite, and they get a big play out of it. And the Ravens finally stopped trying some reverse antics where they try to use the passing game to open up the run game. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and I don't understand why the Ravens were trying to do that. And if you watch the games throughout the season, instead of doing what the other 31 teams in the NFL do, where you use the run game to open up the passing game, right? That is basic football. That is basic stuff. For whatever reason, the Ravens thought they could use the passing game to open up the run game, which is, again, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't understand. And I'm not saying that they've never come out and said that, but if you watch the games, you can see that's what they're trying to do. In those early games of the season, they made Lamar Jackson throw the ball a lot more than he is built for. And I just don't get it. Stop making him throw the ball so much when that's not the game. You use the run game, which is they have the best run game in the NFL. Use the run game to open up the pass game. But they're trying to do the reverse, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you have the best run game or not. It doesn't work when you try to flip that. It doesn't matter if you have the best passing game. It doesn't matter if you have Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. You can't use the pass game to open up the run game. That is not like it doesn't work. That's not how the whole thing. It's crazy that the Ravens that's like their play calling is like reverse, or at least it was. Last night, it looks like they finally got their head straight. They finally let Lamar do his thing, and the Ravens were very successful last night. And I just got something to say about all the people, and even the announcers last night said this. They were all like, Lamar needs to show that he can throw the ball in late game scenarios. He needs to show that he can throw the ball in crucial scenarios and in tight spots. I mean, what he can't after he came back after the bathroom break, he went like what 6 for 6 or 5 for 5 or something like that. Like I don't think he threw an incomplete pass. He placed every single pass right where it needed to be. I mean, he threw the ball so good that even Hollywood Brown caught it on 4th and 5. Like, so look. Regardless of how good or bad the Cleveland Browns defense was, I think Lamar Jackson showed you last night that he not only has the legs, as we all know he does, but he also has the arm that you need in those late game scenarios in order to win games no matter who it's against. If they play like that, if the offense does, if the defense needs to shape up, and we'll get to that in a second. But if the offense plays the way they did last night, that is very good stuff from... they're gonna be looking just as good as they were last year during the regular season. That Monday night game against the Browns last night almost looked like the Monday night game last year against the LA Rams, except the defense last year in that Rams game was way better than the defense was for the Ravens, at least, than it was last night. Hollywood Brown, as I said, he's got to go. He has got to go. I'm not saying you trade him right now. I don't think you can do that. I think the trade deadline is come and gone. But at the end of the season, I'm telling you, man, he's got to go. He made the catch. I'll give it to him. He made that catch late in the game where he absolutely had to. But as soon as I saw that's where the ball was going, I said, oh, man, he's going to drop this. Thankfully, I was wrong. But more and more each game, he's becoming a problem. Early in the season, he complained about not getting the ball. So now Lamar is kind of forcing the ball to him, and he's dropping it. I really think you got to give the ball to Willie Snead more. Willie Snead is more and more each game. Willie Snead is becoming my favorite wide receiver on the team. Mark Andrews is great as well. He's a tight end. But Hollywood Brown, he's such a soft player. And that's part of the reason why he drops some of these. That's the reason why he drops some of these passes is, he either senses it or he sees that the defender is coming in for a hit on him, and he just drops the ball so it doesn't get hit. Like, and there's other times where instead of going for the first down, he just runs out of bounds and makes it 3rd and 2 instead of going for the extra yards. Like guys like Willie Snead, even Miles Boykin when he catches the ball, and Mark Andrews does, and even J.K. Dobbins does it, the running back, and Lamar Jackson does it too. Like Hollywood Brown is just the one guy on the team that doesn't go for those extra yards. He goes out of bounds to avoid a hit, and I get it. He's a smaller guy. I get it. You don't want to. And he's smaller in both height and he's a little skinnier, and I get it. You don't want to get a huge hit, but he is way too cautious for my liking. I think he's got to go. I think he has a bit of an attitude issue, but his problem is his toughness, not so much his attitude. And I would say, because he's known for his speed, I would say get him involved in some jet sweep plays, but not even that, because he'll either drop the handoff or he'll go down if he sees a linebacker come around the edge to make a tackle on him. He'll go down or something. So I think his game is a lost cause. I think next year I would like to see Duvernay more involved as a wide receiver if we do indeed get rid of Hollywood Brown. And I say we because I'm a Ravens fan. I don't say we because I'm part of the Ravens or anything like that. It's just a force of habit. I gotta cut that out. But yeah, this is a little bit coming from the view of a Ravens fan as well. So if you want that impartial, neutral site reporting, then this isn't your spot. You're gonna go somewhere else. Marcus Peters, I've been noticing a trend with him all year long. He always starts the game pretty good. I'll give him that. But after he has one bad play or a bad penalty, and when I say bad penalty, I don't necessarily mean a bad penalty that a silly one where he makes a stupid decision and like illegal hands to the face or something like that, where it's purely on him. But even if he gets like a bad call, like the officiating crew last night was absolutely terrible. Both ways, not just on the Ravens, not just on the Browns, both ways. There were really bad calls both ways. They missed an instance where the Ravens had 15 guys on the field. I don't know how you missed that. You don't even have to be good at counting. You just got to notice, hey man, there's a lot of guys with white jerseys out here. What's that all about? But yeah, after there is one negative thing to happen to Marcus Peters, his whole demeanor kind of goes down. He lets his guard down afterward. He just kind of gives up. His attitude goes down. There are times where I've noticed where he either gives up on the play instead of going for the tackle after he blows a play. Like the good defenders. Well, first of all, the good defenders don't blow plays very often, but when they do, like if they bite too hard on a fake or something like that, and they know that they've messed up, they will do everything in their power to go down the field and tackle the guy and catch up with him. But Marcus Peters doesn't do that. He'll give up on plays. His body language tells it all. If you watch him, after he has a bad play, he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and like pouts a little bit. And his attitude is becoming a problem for this defense, I think. And if I were any team in the NFL going forward, I would pick on him every game. I would pick on, and teams do that where you have a certain matchup where the cornerback is not as good, and you'll pick on that matchup. And if I was the Browns last night, I would have picked on Marcus Peters more. And I'm not saying next week when the Ravens play the Jaguars, I'm not saying they do that, because I don't think the Jaguars they don't exactly have what it takes to pick on anybody, any bad defense. But when the Ravens play who do they play to end the year? I think they play the Bengals, who are in the same kind of boat as the Jaguars. And then they play, who else do the Ravens play this year? I don't even know. But if they do indeed make the playoffs and they play a higher caliber team, if I was the guy calling the plays and drawing up the film and all that great stuff, I would definitely be saying, hey, look, this Marcus Peters guy, pick on him, because if he messes up and he has a bad first quarter or a bad sequence of plays, he becomes a liability in that defense. So I think at the end of the season, Hollywood Brown and Marcus Peters are two guys that I would not be surprised if they let go. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if we ended up keeping them for whatever kind of salary cap purposes we end up having. Like, I don't know what their contracts look like between the two. So I'm not saying that, you got to release them, right? Because it may not be in their best interest with the salary cap and contracts and all that, stuff that happens when you look into releasing or trading a player. It's the same reason that if you look at baseball, guys like Chris Davis are still in the Orioles because they were so stupid 5 years ago or whatever it was, and they signed him to some max contract, and now he's the worst player in all of baseball. Same deal. Some overall thoughts on the Ravens defense from last night, and it's another trend that I've noticed all year long. They have, Marlon Humphrey's come really good at punching the ball out, so now the whole defense tries to do it, right? And they got to stop doing that, because after they've already given up a 10 to 15 yard play, those plays turn into a 20, 30 yard play. They turn into even bigger plays, because we'll have 2 or 3 guys on the guy with the ball, right? And instead of just making the tackle, we end up trying to punch the ball out and stuff like that. And I just don't get it. You've already given up 15 yards, just cut your losses and tackle them. Stop trying to punch the ball at every play. And these huge chunk plays end up being 2 times bigger of a play than they would have ended up being if you would just make the tackle. It's not Humphrey as much, even though Humphrey is the one that is the most famous for punching the ball out. He's not really the main guy that focuses too much on punching the ball out. He's one of those guys that, the punching the ball out is his thing. So he knows when the right time to punch the ball out is. But other guys see it and oh man, I want to do that. I want to have the big punch out play. And they try to do it, and they end up not making the tackle and trying to punch the ball out. And then guys like Kareem Hunt break their tackle and take the ball 10, 15 more yards than what they've already gotten, which was a big play. So at the end of the day, you got to stop trying to punch the ball out on every play and just make the tackle when you've given up a big chunk play already. Because what's happening is you're trying to punch the ball out after you already given up 15 yards, and those 15-yard plays end up turning into 30-yard plays. So you got to kind of cut your losses at some point and just make the tackle instead of trying to punch the ball out. And giving up an even bigger play. And if the defense is going to play like that, I think the Ravens are going to have to win. If they are going to win games, they're going to have to win it in a shootout game like the game last night. And again, like they have really good players on defense: Matt Judon, Ngakoue, Campbell, Humphrey, Jimmy Smith. Elliott is pretty good. Patrick Queen is the young rookie from LSU, linebacker. Like they have a really good core. They have a really good defensive group. But with the COVID issue that they've been going through, the injuries that they've had, like Calais Campbell's had a calf injury, I believe it was. I think Jimmy Smith had an injury at one point. Humphrey was out with COVID. He had an injury too at one point. Like everybody on that defense has either had COVID or an injury, except for like 2 guys. So like if this defense can get healthy by the end of the year, and if they do make the playoffs, if they're fortunate enough to make the playoffs, if they can get healthy, this defense could easily be one of the best defenses in the league. And again, if they get healthy, that's a defense that I'm looking at and I'm saying, I don't want to play them in the playoffs. No way. But if the defense is going to continue to struggle like last night, and I mean no disrespect to the Browns. I'm not saying that, oh man, you cannot give up 42 points to the Browns. That's an embarrassment, right? But because you look at the other side, and the other side gave up more points. They gave, we had the safety at the end of the play on that, at the end of the game on that, the Harlem Globetrotters throw it around kind of play. But both defenses weren't great, but both defenses definitely had their strong points and their bright moments. But if the defense is, and again, like I said, the Ravens defense is not 100% healthy. They've gone through COVID issues. They just haven't had the time to build that chemistry up and really get together. So, if they can get healthy, then the Ravens team, the Ravens are going to be a very tough team to beat. The offense was great last night. If Lamar doesn't get any more Taco Bell cramps, then they'll be even better. But yeah, it just seems like if the defense doesn't get healthy and the defense doesn't improve, the Ravens are going to have to win games in a shootout game if they're going to win a lot of games, to close out the season. Also, Hollywood Brown, you got to catch the ball, man. You got to catch the ball. And I know he caught the ball in a clutch scenario. That was a great catch by him. Props to him for catching that. I'm not saying I can go out and catch all of those passes, but you're in the NFL. That's what you're getting paid to do, and you can't do it. So, just got to catch the ball, man. Come on. Just catch the ball. As I said, let's look at the Browns a little bit. We spent 20 minutes talking about the Ravens. Let's talk about the Browns. As I mentioned in the opening introduction bit, they've got nothing to hang their head about. That was a great game, an even better effort from them. Baker did make some bad throws, but that's going to happen. He's a young quarterback. You got to take what you can get from a young core that's having their first successful year when they're trying to build their dynasty. He had a really nice game overall, and like our defense, as I mentioned, the Ravens defense wasn't great, and the Cleveland Browns have 2 of the better running backs in the country, in the league, with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I just gotta think that in the second and third quarter, instead of making Baker Mayfield throw the ball and trying to make Baker Mayfield be some Aaron Rodgers superhero, you gotta let Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt do some work. And I know they did. But and they gave the ball to Chubb and Hunt a little bit in the pass game, but I think you gotta let them run the ball more. Our defense was getting really tired late in the game. In the third quarter, our defense was getting really tired. The Browns were having some long drives. I just think you gotta run the ball more in the second and third quarter early on in the game before you fall too far behind. Because when you fall behind, then you have to throw the ball, right? You can't be establishing the run when you're down 14 points. You just can't. So rather you establish the run game in like the second and third quarters, not so much in the third quarter, but more so in the second quarter before the halftime. You establish that run game more so in the first half when you're down by a possession or you're ahead by a possession or you're tied or stuff like that. But instead, I think Baker Mayfield had like, I don't know, he had like what, 25, 30 passes at halftime or something like that. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a good arm. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you go for a pass play 80% of the time, the defense is going to get together on the other side, and they're just going to say, okay, hey, they're throwing the ball, 70% of the time, whatever that was, right? But they were throwing the ball a lot, is my point. And they're going to say, you know what, we don't have to worry too much about the run game because they're not going on that. They're not using it that much. So let's just predominantly not sell out for the pass, but predominantly be thinking pass, right? And I think that's when Tyus Bowser, like the Ravens started to figure it out in the second half, and that's when Tyus Bowser got the interception. Because if you watch that play again, Tyus Bowser was practically going to the ball as if the ball was intended for him all along. So the Ravens really started to figure out the pass game in the second half, and I think that it wouldn't have been so easy for them to figure it out if the Browns had done more of handing the ball off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the second quarter and early on in the third quarter. Because again, it's not like you have, it's not like the Steelers where they had like their third string running back or whatever, for a few weeks. Like they've got two really, really solid running backs, and to not use them, to underutilize that talent is the difference between winning and losing games. And I'm not saying that's the reason they lost the game last night, but I think it certainly would have helped if they would have gotten those really, really talented running backs. If they would have gotten them involved, I think that would have done a lot for them. But again, like after the game, the way Mayfield and their coach Kevin Stefanski were reacting, it was like if you would not have watched the game and you would have just seen like the post game interviews from Mayfield and Stefanski, you would have thought that they got like blown out or something. Like the way that they were reacting to the game was like they were acting like they had a terrible game. And I think you got to have more self-pride in yourselves. Like, you're the Cleveland Browns. You've been the laughingstock of the NFL for the last 15, 20 years or so, right? 10 to 15 years. And you're finally having a good year, and you had a great game, and you just lost the game, right? I mean, one team had to lose. It's not like you went out there and embarrassed yourselves or got blown out. But these guys were acting like they just had the worst performance of all time. And I think you've got to have more, as I said, you got to have more self-pride in your team. You got to have more faith in your team. And I was really surprised at how down in the dumps they were after that game. I mean, again, I get it. Losing is not one of those things where like, it's okay, we lost, it's okay, right? It's fine. I'm not saying you have to be all peachy and all 100% positive about it, but I really feel like they were. I don't know if overreacting is the right term to describe their response to the game, but I felt like the way they responded to questions in the presser and the way that they were reacting to losing that game, I really felt like they were overlooking the fact that they had a really good game. I felt like they were really overlooking the fact that they played an outstanding game, and like. You want to. A lot of people are going to talk about the team that wins, right? Obviously, and you're going to say, "Wow, what a game by the team that won that game! What a performance by the team that won that game!" But you look back at that game, and the Browns had they had just as much of a chance to win that game as the Ravens did. If Lamar Jackson was seriously injured and he didn't just need a bathroom break, Browns would have definitely won that game, because after McSorley got hurt, I mean, who's our quarterback going to be? Sam Cook, Justin Tucker, because RG3 was inactive, I believe. So, the Browns cannot, and I'm not saying that everybody gets a trophy. I'm not saying there's a second place prize or whatever, but they were acting like it was the end of their season. They were acting like that was, a win or go home scenario, and they lost the game, and now they can't play for another, they're not going to get a chance to play for another 5 months or however long the offseason is. And I just felt like they were totally overlooking the fact that they had a really great game. If they played that way against the Titans, then they would have I don't know, because their defense was just about as good as it was against the Titans, and they almost blew that game last week. I'm talking about the Browns. But yeah, I just felt like the Browns, again, they had a great game, and yet they were down in the dumps about it, and I just didn't get that. And let's not forget, they had Odell Beckham Jr. To begin the year. And to me, at least, I don't really pay too close attention to the Browns because, for the past 10, 15 years, they've been a joke. I still kind of laugh at the Browns when I think of the Browns being a good team, being a playoff team. I think that's comical to me. But it sure seems like the Browns have been better off since OBJ got hurt. I'm not saying that you're like happy he got hurt, because that's a terrible thing to say, and that's terrible, right? To say like, oh, I'm glad he got hurt. You never say that. You don't ever say that about a guy, no matter how bad or how good he is, whether he plays for you or not. But was OBJ the problem in that locker room? You've got to wonder. He's had some moments and some instances where he's been toxic with he's been a toxic aspect of a team and in the locker room. And you've got to wonder, have the Browns gotten has their chemistry grown since he has not been around as much? Since he hasn't been involved in their game plan as much, has the team grown and has the team gotten closer together? That's something that I wonder about, and then I'd be interested to see if they keep Odell Beckham Jr. on their team for the future. There certainly were rumors going into the season that he wanted out of Cleveland. I don't blame him. Cleveland's not a great place. But it just seems, he's only been on two teams, right? The Giants and the Browns, but it just seems like everywhere he is, he doesn't want to be there. When he doesn't get the ball, he starts pouting. Kind of reminds me of some other players I know, but like his body language, his attitude is a problem, and you just got to wonder. And again, I'm not claiming anything. I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm not saying, I got the inside information here. I'm not like saying I'm Adam Schefter or whatever. I'm not saying, according to all my sources, OBJ was the problem. No. I'm just saying it seems like the Browns have been a better team, more cohesive unit since he has gotten hurt and not been a part of their game plan. Because it's a similar situation with Hollywood Brown, where they were both kind of complaining about not getting the ball a lot, and then they force him the ball, and then they don't catch it, or the defense is now paying more attention to them, so maybe those are the reasons why they can't catch the ball, or just those kinds of things that cause problems for any team. So I gotta wonder, was Odell Beckham, right? Was Odell Beckham Jr. not the main problem, but maybe one of the main problems as to why the Browns had so much talent on their team, but were not necessarily that great last year and the beginning of this year? It's just something that just a question I want to raise. If you want to leave your thoughts in the comments, whatever, that'd be great. As I said, I talked about this a lot a couple minutes ago, but the Browns have two of the best running backs in the league, in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Yet they're making they're making Baker throw the ball, way more than in my opinion, than he should have. And maybe that's just me being used to the Ravens running the ball a lot more than any other team. They don't throw the ball a lot, so I'm more shocked when a team throws the ball a lot when they've got good running backs. I don't know. Maybe that is. Baker Mayfield does throw the ball a lot, but I think that if the Browns are looking for something for the future to take into consideration and be wondering, why are we falling short in these games against other really good teams? Why are we falling short by that little amount? And in these close games, and I gotta say that you gotta take some of that weight off Baker Mayfield's shoulders. You gotta remember, he's not a veteran quarterback. He's a young quarterback too. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him, He's got a lot on his plate making these commercials. Uh, um, but no, seriously, he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders not carrying that team, but they make him throw the ball a lot more than he really needs to, or than he really should be. You know, the few times, not the few times, but when the Browns did run the ball, the Ravens defense had a difficult time stopping the run for, like they had a tough time containing it to a 5-yard gain or something like that. Like, I mean, there were plenty of times where Hunt or Chubb ran the ball and got like a 10, 15-yard big chunk play out of it. I mean, of course, there were a few times where the Ravens defense did prevail and either got them for a loss or only held it to like a 2-yard gain or whatever. But the defense did have a tough time stopping the run game, and I just feel like the Ravens didn't stop the run game enough for the Browns to go away from the run like they did. I mean, Baker Mayfield was throwing it so much that they even let Jarvis Landry throw the ball. He's like, I can't throw the ball so much. I need somebody else to throw it. I can't do this. I need, So I think the Browns running the ball more, I think will open up more opportunities than Baker already has. And if you can open up more opportunities than Baker already has, that could be a really dangerous offense. And look, the Browns have good receivers. It's not like the Ravens where you've got one guy who's complaining and drops the ball. Well, I guess the Browns did have that, but now he's hurt. And it's not like the Browns have, had a tight end out with COVID a lot. Like Njoku is really good. Well, I guess Austin Hooper was out yesterday, but he's another part of that offense that they can, get the ball to, and they have, to be fair. But I think if you use the run game more than they did last night, I think that will open up more opportunities than are already present for Baker Mayfield in the passing game. And if that actually happens, the Browns could have one of the more dangerous offenses in the entire league, which is saying something considering there are guys like Mahomes and Tyreek Hill out there, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and the great quarterback receiver duos that are already out there in the league. So I think the Browns have to consider. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just saying at least consider it. Consider running the ball a little bit more than they did in last night's game. Again, I'm not saying that's the difference. I'm not saying that if you run the ball more, you win the game. But what I am saying is, I mean, maybe you do. I don't know, but I'm not an expert by any means. But I just felt like they went away from the run game too early. I think they kind of gave up on the run game a little too early, for my liking. But who knows? Maybe if that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do. I'm not. Again, as I said, I'm no expert. I'm not the one. I'm not getting paid to make those decisions for a pro football team. That's just my 2 cents on the thing. So as I said, I have a big announcement, or not a huge announcement, but you know what I mean. Whatever. I've got an announcement to make. I started uploading like the soundtracks, like just my voice, of these videos to Anchor. And if you don't know what Anchor is, it's an app and a website too, where you can make your own podcasts, and you can do it right from your phone, which I've been doing. You can do it right from your computer as well. Obviously, if you can do it on your phone, you can do it on the computer. So if you want to go check out the podcast, I mean, if you already watched the videos on YouTube, there's really no sense in checking out the podcast, because it's just the voice tracks of the videos. But if you want to, if you'd rather listen to these types of videos, if you'd rather listen to them instead of watching them. And really, that's what this whole thing is really designed for. This whole YouTube channel is really more designed for listening to it in the background. I just put these, the graphics up on the screen so that if you're not doing anything and you really want to watch a video, you have something to look at instead of just like a blank screen or a stationary thing. So yeah, I'll leave the links in the description. And the great thing about Anchor is that it automatically puts it on all these different podcast platforms. It's on Spotify, it's on I believe it's on Apple Podcasts. I'm not 100% sure. They've got like a preset as to which ones they already, automatically put it on. If you want to put it on more than the basic 3, then I think you can do that. You can do it yourself. But I think it's like another one's called like Pocket Cast or something, which I've never heard of. And then the other one, I think you can listen to it right on the Anchor app or the website or something like that. So I'll leave the links to that in the description below. Check it out. It'll be great. Other than that, if you like the video, smash the like button. That'd be great. If we could get 5 likes or so, that'd be great. I don't know if even 5 people will watch this, but whatever. That'd be great. And subscribe if you haven't already. It's free. Seriously, subscribe. What's the deal? Come on. It's not that, it's free. You don't have to pay anything. Like, it doesn't hurt you. I promise. I promise it doesn't hurt. So, like, do it. Come on, do it. Subscribe. You know you want to. Other than that, comments are always welcome, and share it with all your friends. That would be great. And other than that, I'll be back in the next video. I'm out.